Okay, so I've done the beams and the joists there, and again, if you want to just get that family from the P drive, I'll just show you. You can go into a ceiling plan if you haven't placed that previously, and then you need to go to the structure tab and go to beam to load this family, just because it's that type of family or that kind of family. So once you click onto beam, then you can go to load family and browse to the Revit library folder on the P drive, interior design, Revit library, and there you need to go into structural, where you'll find this family adjustable timber component. Now I've got a couple of backups here, I'm just going to delete those. So you can see there we've just got that file, adjustable timber component. Click open and it will load it in for you. And so you can place the family in your ceiling plan view, but you may need to check that you have an offset value there to lift it up off the floor, or alternatively place it in a floor plan view and then just lift it up off the floor in a section view. So there you can see in my section view I can see those joists, and if it comes in on the floor you can just lift it up. And then make sure you realise that I've made this family so that you can select it and then get an arrow at the end which you can use to stretch and change the length so that they all can be different, because they do need to all have a different length so that they can follow that sloping wall. And really the only easy way of doing this is just to stretch each one. You could, yeah. Oh, sorry, if they're already at the right height. Yes, of course, absolutely, yeah, that's right. So I've already got mine on level 1, and I'm going to copy and paste them to all the other levels as I go through. So make sure you realise as well that you can use these for the beams just by setting a different size. When you go to edit type, you can see here this is the same family. And I've got two sizes. I've got a 200 by 50 for the joists, and then 250 by 250 for the beams. So now just using duplicate, you can set a new size and then type in the size you want. I've got those beams there under the joists, and again we'll see those in section view. So there's the beam. Okay, so now I want the columns, and so what you're going to find with the columns, that if you place them the way I showed you earlier, that your columns probably run all the way through the building. But some of you were saying that Iraj showed you that you can place the columns on each level and then copy and paste them, and that's what we're going to have to do here if you want the top of the joist with that, I suppose capital. There's a better name for it if it's timber. It's not really called a capital in timber, but we'll just say it's a capital for now. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to fix, and I'm just going to select my columns in this plan view. It's actually a ceiling plan. So the easy way to do that is just to select one of them, right click, and then select all instances visible in view. And now I can simply change the base level to level 1 FFL, and then the top level I'm going to make level 2 FFL, but we're going to set a how can I say, a variable height for this essentially. Alright, so I'm just going to select one of them now, and actually, sorry, before I even do that, I'll show you in the section what's happened there. So now, yeah, lucky I checked that. Okay, so you can see in properties that the top level is set to level 1 FFL. But what's happened there, at some point I must have attached it to the floor at the top of the building. Okay, so to detach it, I'm just going to select, again, one column, and this time I'll go to select all instances. I'm just going to go to in entire project because I can't see them all in this view. And then detach top base will come up on the ribbon. So I can click there, and then I'm just going to go to detach all. Now, still hasn't detached it. Oh yes, sorry, now. Okay, so again, I'll repeat that. So I'm going to select a column and then go to in entire project, select all instances, in entire project, because what will happen sometimes when you attach things, after you detach them, what they've programmed Revit to do is put an offset value in there which matches the height it was at before, which can be useful, but in this case I don't want that, so I'm going to set that top offset to 0. And here I've got a warning about objects joining but not intersecting, and so in this case I know that I'm not going to extend those columns up again through the floor, so I'm just going to go to unjoin elements. Okay, so that's done, and now again I can select one of the columns, and it doesn't really matter which view I do this in. I'm just going to do it in the section. So with one of those columns selected, now I'm going to go to edit family, to see the column family file, and so I just want to quickly have a look at the material. I don't remember the material I've used. Wood structure. Oh yeah, no, so I might show you a trick here. So I'm going to switch back to my project, and I just did that using Control Tab. You can also use the window button up here. And what I'm going to do is select the column again in the project, and before I go to edit family, this time I'm going to change the structural material there to wood structure. It just saves me making it again, otherwise I'd have to remember exactly how I set it up. So here if I go to wood structure, that's the material I've used for the joists and the beam. And so now when I go to edit family, it hasn't picked it up. Sometimes that will... No, it's still not getting it, so... Okay, so I'm going to try closing this. So I'm just going to go on the main menu and choose close, which will close that family file, and I'll try again. So it's on wood structure there. I'm just going to try going to edit family now. And no, it doesn't want to pick it up for me. So... And it's because it's a instance parameter. So I'll make a few changes and then I'll try that again. So sometimes you just got to force it a little bit. So here I'm going to select this parameter. If you missed how I got to that dialog box, remember it's family types there. So I just need to choose this material area, go to modify, and I'm going to just change it to type. Click OK, click OK, and load into project and override existing version. Yes. So these steps aren't always essential. It's just going to help you, hopefully in this case, to get that material across. So now I'll select that column and notice that the material isn't coming up now in properties because I've changed it from instance to type, so it'll be there when I go to edit type, and there it is. So now I'll try changing it to the one I want. And so let's try this time. So edit family, still probably set to default. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do it the complicated way, and I'll show you that. Okay. So what I can do now, I'm going to select. Well, it doesn't matter actually. You can select any one of those columns, and again, right click. Going to go select all instances. Again, in entire project. I just have to do that because I want them all to change. And then edit type, and this time I'm going to go to duplicate. I'm just going to put a letter T after that that option there. So it's adding a new type, and now if I go to edit family, that new type should be there in family types. There it is, and beautiful, got it. Okay, so the reason it didn't come across before is because all of these types already existed in that family file that I was going to edit. So they were already there with the material set to concrete. And so it wasn't changing those types, but because I've added this new type, it's a bit of a trick built into Revit. When you edit a family in a project and add a new type, if you then go to edit that family file, it'll add that type back into the family file, which is really useful because often you will add a lot of extra types. You might add new window sizes or new column sizes to a family, and you don't want to have to go and do all of that work again in the original family file every time you go to edit it. So I'll bring those types across. And so I've used that trick to bring my material across from the project as well. Otherwise I'd have to go and make that material again in the family file. Because remember, you'll see when I click here, the family has a different list of materials to the project. And yeah. So getting them.
You duplicate and add in the material.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I still do it. I mean, but it's easy to fix as long as you know. Yep. So if I go to shaded here, or realistic actually, I can see it's timber. Now, it's called concrete square column. We don't want it to be concrete, so I'm going to go onto the main menu, save as, family, and I'm going to save it into the Revit library on the P drive. And in structural, then columns, and then wood. So you'll be able to get to this family, and we'll call it timber square column with capital. Okay, so we've got there the front elevation, so I've just double clicked on that to open it. And now I'm going to draw in that, that shape you can see there. So I'm just going to make an extrusion. And okay, so if that's 250, I'm going to say it looks like it's about the same distance out on either side, so it's going to draw a line out somewhere there, and another one over here. And it looks to me like it's the same distance down as well, about 250, if that's 250 wide. So I'm going to come across here, and then I'm going to join all those lines together, and then show you how I'm going to get that size to be always the same as what we have for the column. So I'm going to draw a dimension from this reference level down to the line here, place it, another one from this line across to the column, place it, and then from this line across to the column, place it. Now I'm going to select those dimensions, just using control. I'll select all three, and I can go to label and set it to that B value. That B value is setting the size of the column. So those values now will all be the same as the column size. So I'm just going to draw a line across the top, and I'll use pick lines actually to do this. So I'm just going to use pick lines in the draw panel there, pick my, and then turn the lock option on, and then pick my reference level. Trim them together. Okay, so I'll finish that as it is, and just show you now, if I go to family types and change that B value to, let's say 450, apply, and you can see they all change following it. So that hopefully give you an idea how useful parameters can be when you're setting things like sizes. So now I'm going to get that extrusion, that is the main column shaft there, and bring that the top down using the arrow there, and it's going to give me a little error symbol. Don't worry about that. I'm going to stretch it until it lines up with the bottom of my new shape, and it'll give me an option telling me constraints are not satisfied. No problem. I'm just going to click remove constraints, and then I'm going to lock it again to this new shape. So I've locked that now, so it's always going to follow this shape. And again, I'm going to go and test that. So if I put in a new size, it should follow it. Now comes the part that could be a little bit more fiddly, getting this curve on there. It's easy to draw, it's just to get it to be adjustable that can be more tricky. So again, selecting that, edit extrusion, and I'm going to use fillet arc and choose these two lines and then place a radius between them. I'll do the same on the other side. Now the method I'm going to try first to get these to follow these lines is I'm going to try and lock that radius to a fixed value. So well, let's have a look there. What do you think that radius might be if you're looking by eye? Well, let's say we know that's 250. Okay, so this to me looks like it's about a quarter of that. So a quarter of well, a quarter of 240 is 60. So that's probably close enough. And so that's the radius I've got there. So I think that's pretty good. So I'll use 60 for the other side. And now, just like the other things, I'm going to go and draw in our dimension, but this time it'll be a radial dimension. And pick the curve, place my dimension, same on the other side. Now, you don't have an option to lock radial dimensions, but just having the dimension there should make it stay. Otherwise, we can add in a label if we want to try and get it to be fixed. So I'll just see what happens. A bit strange when you don't have references. It's sometimes a bit unpredictable, but let's just see. If I go and change the size now. So, oops, let's move this over. Okay, so I'll make it 450. Let's make it 150. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Because I don't need to do any more to make that that curve stay there. And you don't need to make it work for all possible measurements anyway. You just need to check it for a reasonable range that you're likely to actually use. So that's done in this view, but now if I look in the left elevation, you'll see that it's actually set to one side of the reference plane there in the centre. So an easy way to make that follow this column shaft is simply to select it, and then using the arrows on the left, snap it to the side, lock, and the same with the other one. Snap and then lock, because those sides are already set to follow that B dimension, so I don't need to plug that in. If you need to plug it in, you can use these options here for the extrusion start and end, but again, you don't have to. So looking in 3D, pretty close. Now that column shaft uses this, has a wood structure material, and it's using the structural material parameter. So I'm just going to plug this top piece in the same way. So first I'm going to select it, browse for the material, and use my wood structure that I already have. And now to make it adjustable, I'm going to click on the Add Parameter button, or Associate Family Parameter button, choose Structural Material, click OK. Now that's adjustable along with the column. So that's going to be really useful in a moment, because I want to change that material. So that's done. I'm just going to save that file and then loading the project. And I might click just to place it once. That's a ceiling plan. So hopefully in this section view now I can see it, maybe not. Why can't I see it? Oh, I don't think that came. Oh, now sorry, watch out, when you go to place columns, there are a couple of things you need to check. So mine didn't come up, not because of the view, I didn't check that it had gone back to this setting that I really find frustrating, but you just need to get used to checking for it. Because it's a structural element, I'll show you why it didn't come in. So with structural elements like columns, they set them up for engineers. Engineers, when they're designing the structure for a building, tend to start with the subfloor structure. Right? They do the footings, which are going to hold your building up first, and they work up from there. So by default, the column height is set to depth, so you're working down from the ground floor before you work up. So you need to usually you just change that to height, and then you can set the level above for the height. You can also set unconnected, but in this case we'll use the level above. And you can see now if I place that column just randomly, we should be able to find that. There it is. And it's gone back to that size. I didn't check all the sizes actually, so I should have done that. I'll just show you what I mean. So, okay, so remember I started with another family here, and it already had a bunch of different sizes set up. Now, those other sizes are using the material that was set to them the last time they were saved. So I need to go and just change those, just in case you do get or need to use another size. And also, you know, if someone else comes to use this file, you don't want it to go and have concrete. And that's something to remember. Whenever you use different family types, it stores all of those settings, not just the size, but the material as well, in the type there. So I go back to this one. Now I might delete that one, don't need it, and there we are. So save that file, that'll be there if you go and get it from the P drive, and overwrite the existing version, and this one back to 250, there we are. Okay, so I'm going to delete that particular column, and then maybe I'll do the rest in a perspective. Just going to check a measurement first. Yeah. Okay, so in this perspective view now I can just select one of these columns, right click, select all instances, any entire project. I've only got the columns on this level at the moment, so I can just select them all. And I can choose my new column family from the list there, just the 250 by 250. But then the capital's now going up to the level above, so I'm going to put a top offset there of minus, now I've forgotten that measurement, 480 I think it was. And unjoin elements, that's okay. There we are. So that should look really good. Maybe just to finish off that view, we know it's a timber floor structure. So I've got a floor that I've made that has that material. Just going to make sure it's showing. There we are. They're not very good floorboards though, so I'll show you how to get better floorboards in a minute. That's what we'll do in the next one. Yeah, so it's in the structural and then columns and then wood. Yeah. Timber square column with capital. So yeah, I'll do another video on materials after this, and that's really what I wanted to lead into.